Hey guys, it's me again, and today I'm going to be doing a review on Thomas and Friends' Journey Beyond Sodor. It came in the year of 2017. So basically what the plot is, we have Henry taking a goods train to the mainland, and then the signal was crooked and Hero was on the line, and Henry accidentally crashes into his train, and Henry almost dangles off the bridge for dear life. And then James is boasting about him being the favorite engine, and Thomas gets jealous, and the Fat Controller asks James to take his take Henry's goods train, and then Thomas also gets jealous about it, but he decides to take his train instead. And then James gets jealous with him. And then Thomas gets lost on the mainland and he meets this crane called Beresford, who he doesn't know who Thomas was. Then Thomas sneaks out of Beresford and he meets the experimental engines, Theo and Lexi. And then he runs out of coal and water and Theo pulls him to the water tower. And then James... Oh yeah, and Thomas also goes to the steel works and he meets the two antagonists of the film, Hurricane and Frankie or Hurricane, or whatever you want to call them. And then they want Thomas to stay at the steel works for always and always and always, and then at first Thomas seems to enjoy it, but later he wants to go home. And then James is fed up of Thomas being on Thomas's branch line, and he goes to the mainland to look for him. And then Thomas sneaks out of the steelworks, and Frankie and Hurricane try to chase him, and then Thomas hides in the siding, and he meets this engine called Merlin, and Thomas gets lost again, and the experimental engine's trying to help him, and then Thomas tries to find his way home, and Beresford lifts him again. Beresford blocks him again, and he dangles Thomas for dear life, and then Thomas hears that Hurricane and Frankie are returning, and James is with them, so Beresford hid Thomas, and then Thomas realized that James is taken to the steelworks, and it's up to Thomas and his new friends to save James and go back to Sodor. And that's basically what the plot is. Now guys, what do I think of this film? I actually really, really liked it. I know you guys might be surprised about it, but I actually really enjoyed this. I know there's a lot of you who do not like this movie at all, but to me, it's one of my favorite Thomas and Friends specials. Because when I first heard it was announced, I was really excited for it. And when I looked at the trailers, I was very surprised. Yeah, I know some of you don't like it because of the bouncing. It's not actually called bouncing, it's called like... what do you describe that? Coordinating, or, what do you call it? I think it's, gesturing, or body language. Yeah, I think it's just gesturing. But it's not as bad as Chuggington's bouncing, or Bob the Builder, or Cars, or, whatever shows has oh yeah, Underground Ernie. Even though the trains don't move their bodies, they move their faces. Even though that's a bit creepy. And they don't do it with Thomas. Well, they did. Thomas moved his head in one scene while he was turning it up and down, which we were worried that the moving face was going to go on, but it didn't. That was just probably an error or something, I don't know. But that was kind of creepy. And yeah, this was also the first movie to be animated by Janfield after Art Productions become bankruptcy. And this movie was made during the bankrupt of Art Productions because some of the animation are like a bit like Art Productions animation and the other are a bit like Janfield animation. It's kind of cool to have both animations. And I think it's like this in season 21 as well, which is cool. And season 21 is a great season in my opinion. Sorry about that. And yeah. Now let's talk about the new characters. In this new character in this movie we got a few new characters. Like we got Beresford, Theo, Lexi, Merlin, Frankie, and Hurricane. And that's it. Probably my favorite new character in the movie, which has to be Merlin. Merlin is such a great character. And he also appeared in an episode in Series 22 called Seeing is Believing. Which I think will be his last appearance, I don't know. Which I hope they put the experimental engines in future episodes. Or maybe they would have episodes to themselves without being on Sodor. That'd be quite nice in a future episode of Thomas the Tank Engine. Or maybe there'd be a spin-off called Mainland Stories or something. I don't know. But I doubt that's gonna happen because Mattel likes their new series that they're making called Big World Big Adventures. And yeah. And this was also the last special narrated by Mark Morahan, which is really disappointing because he was a great narrator. He's not entirely gone from the show. He did voice Dexter in a season 22 episode called School of Duck, which is quite nice. And let me think. Oh yeah, we also got, and when the movie was announced, some people were predicting that Boko was going to return. Some fans really wanted to see Boko in this. And also some other returning characters like Terrence, Molly, Neville, Fergus. Who else? Oh yeah, Murdoch, Arthur, and Dennis. They really wanted to see them, but they didn't come back. The only new character who came back was Terrence. Even though Terrence wasn't even in the movie, but he returned in Series 21. And when I first saw Terrence returning in Series 21, when I first saw the Christmas on Sodor episodes, when they were announced, I was really surprised that Terrence the Tractor would be returning to the series. And I was also surprised that Bulgy returned. I was also surprised to see other characters returning as well. So yeah. So, do I have any negatives? Well, unfortunately, yes. The only negatives I have are probably when Thomas moves his face and when Beresford lifts Thomas, and probably the bouncing. Those are my negatives. But the rest of the film is still pretty good. Even though I didn't have a problem with the bouncing at that time. But because bouncing's getting too far in the series at the moment, because it's getting over the top. Because in Big World Big Adventures onwards, the trains start to bounce more in every episode. They didn't do it in season 21. They only do it for occasional reasons. So yeah. And we also got loads of cameos from other characters from the series. Like, Oh yeah, and Rosie also spoke in this special. This was probably the first special that Rosie has spoke. This wasn't her official comeback. She did make some cameos in the other episodes, animated by Art Productions, and a few specials. And she also got an episode to herself in Series 21. And some people may be confused about Rosie's new livery in this. And some people think that this special takes place before Series 21. But it isn't. We wouldn't know if Rosie was painted red. And we wouldn't know if the bouncing was going to be in the series at the time. Yeah. I think some episodes from Series 21 were produced in 2016, but weren't aired until 2017. Yeah, that's probably my guess. So yeah. And this was also the last film to have Edward and Henry in the STEAM team, before Nia and Rebecca replaced them from Series 22 onwards. So yeah. I think that's all I have to say for this now. So yeah, overall, Journey Beyond Sodor is a great film. It gets a 10 out of 10 score. If you hate this movie, and if you're a mature user and you hate this movie, I can respect your opinion on it. And if you haven't seen this movie, I should definitely recommend it. After when you watch this video, you can go and watch it if you want to. So yeah, that's all for now. Stay tuned for some more videos coming up soon. And this is me, signing off.